good peoples?
Yo. Let us know if you can hear us. Say something in the comment box. I already see Trevor Roberts. What up, Trevi? Trev goes way back,
Oh yeah,
man, to like Dunamis.
days.
Dunamis and Ebenezer, Dunamis at Glenwood Road.
Mercy, that's like way back.
Yeah, from Glenwood Road to Linden Boulevard to Hegeman Boulevard. Yo, what up, Trev? What's up, Leah? What's
What
up,
up, Leah?
Tiffany? Congratulations, Tiff.
Whoop whoop, she get double horns.
Yeah.
That's Black Girl Magic
That's
in
right.
all of its grandeur right
That's
there,
right.
wrapped up in one amazing young lady.
That's
Oh my gosh,
right, that's
you're
right.
amazing.
The Douglases are here.
What up, Pastor Douglas?
Sister Robinson.
Robinson. Well, how come we're not giving
Oh yeah, my bad. All right, you shout them out. I'll give the horns.
horns? That's for all the people we just mentioned. Coming in. What up, Leah? It's been a minute since we've seen you, Leah. Oh my goodness.
Yo, shout out to Myron James. Hold up.
Myron.
Me and Myron, we go way back to Flatbush SDA.
Oh my
on
gosh.
Snyder Boulevard.
Dang, that's like Flatbush SDA. That's classic right there.
Yo, way back.
If you're from Brooklyn, you know about Flatbush SDA. I almost went to Flatbush.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I almost went there. Maybe we would have met each other then.
We would have probably met each other. You would have seen the swagger that I had even way back then. Horns.
Crickets. My parents, my mom at the time, she opted. It was 4 of us. It was 4 kids. So I think the story is, she tried to get a discount. And I think they had a discount, but it wasn't enough. So she opted to just put us in public school. So that was our only chance of being enrolled in Adventist schools.
Man, that speaks to a bigger issue about tuition costs.
Yeah, for 4 kids. Yeah, my mom was like, that's a hard no, unfortunately.
Yeah, Leah is celebrating her
11th wedding anniversary.
She was 11. Shout out to 11 years.
Last week.
Shout out to 11 years.
Yeah, I know.
What are we working with? 13?
Why are you asking me like you supposed to know?
I already know. It's we're about to hit 13 in May. I was testing you because sometimes your numbers be off. I got to remind you sometimes.
You know what?
Red wins. Here we go.
Hi, Sister Wins. Oh my
God. Sister Simmons in the house. Ephesus. Fee Weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Siobhan.
Hi, Sister Ross.
Yo, New York is in the
house. New York is on what?
New York is lit.
No, we don't do that anymore. That's gone. Lit is gone. Lit. Yeah, that's old. We don't do that anymore.
Dang.
You're really showing your age.
Man, dang.
Yeah, we don't use lit.
Man, you going for the jugular today, right?
I'm not. I'm just trying to help you. You know what I mean? Like, why let you use something that's like outdated?
Oh man, it's gonna be one of them days, fam. It's gonna be one of them days. I feel it's getting hot right here. It's getting hot in here, but nevertheless. Oh, Fee Weeks is from London.
Oh snap!
Yo,
what
across
up?
the pond. We already know what time it is. We miss y'all. Hope y'all get y'all COVID situation taken care of. Because we want to come back. We like over there popping. Oh, Trev said popping.
For real. Oh, Sister Robinson. She's like,
okay, dope. Yeah, dope is consistent.
You know what? You right, Sister Chandler. Sister Robinson, not Chandler. Sister Robinson. You're right. Dope is dope.
Dope is
right? Dope. That never gets old.
Never gets old.
That's true.
Never get old. Yo, Ulrich McFoy, that's my dude right there. He says, yo, bro, hearing your message second was powerful. I was at Andrews when you pushed it a few years ago.
Wow.
Yo, man, shout out to you, man, and the support. I was telling Carlene, when I preached it at Andrews, so the smoke was, the fire was brewing. There was just a little bit of smoke. And I was walking around the campus, and it was just this airy feeling on campus, and I had no idea. Like, if anybody who knows me, I'm the most oblivious person to circumstances and situations. You wonder how I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Well, I know how to sense danger. Like, I was like, okay, this is dangerous. Let me get out of here. But usually, I'm cool as ice, and it's like leery, like people looking at me funny. It just felt weird. Usually after you preach a sermon, most people are like, hey, Pastor, that was a great sermon. I really enjoyed your sermon. There was none of that at Andrews. And I was just like, all right, whatever. And then, like, I get back home to Texas, and people are hitting me up like, what did you do at Andrews? Yo, what did you say? They were like, you left a bomb at Andrews and straight bounced. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just went there and acted like myself, like who I am.
Yeah, that's crazy how you preach a sermon like that, and then you still like you're like doop 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 like nothing happened. Um, Full confession, that was my first time listening to that sermon today. Um, I've heard parts of it, but I've not heard it the way that it was preached at Andrews, and I could not stop. Like I had to use the restroom, and I had like held it because I didn't want to miss anything. Um, that's how I was so. I think my brain was blown away. Like a lot of people probably assume, maybe you guys do or maybe you don't, that a lot of the times that Jamie's messages kind of like maybe blow over my head, or maybe I'm not as connected to it as. Listen, that sermon, I feel like it was a revolutionary sermon. Like it's one of those like ground shaking, earth shaking. If you leave if you leave from hearing this sermon the very same way, then you need to listen to it again, because it speaks so much power to what's it speaks so much power to the institution. It speaks so much power to what we are currently seeing. And to think that he preached that sermon 4 years ago, which is like, it felt as though he prepared that sermon for this week. You know what I mean? And to see how the sermon was prophetic. I would say it was prophetic because you talked about all of the things that would happen under that man's presidency, and to think like, oh my gosh, those things have come true, and I think it's even worse than what we anticipated. So I feel like, that was a epic sermon, and I'm not the same. Like, I'm not the same. Like, I feel like going on a soapbox and straight like preaching to the masses about our system, about not, what is it? You said, do not bow down to the music. What is it?
Stop the music.
Stop the music.
We can't dance to it no more.
We can't dance. I can't dance to this music anymore because I'm tired. I'm tired of doing it. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
So I want to say, I love it when you talk like that. It's very nice when you talk like that. Horns.
Wait, when I talk about
horns.
What just happened? I missed it.
When you just like, yo, the sermon so powerful, and to hear those words and how you were just saying those words, I was so captivated and handcuffed by every word that you said. It was just like, yo, it was lit. I'm gonna say that word again. It was dope.
Okay.
It was dope.
I'll be back because our computer's about to die.
All right. All right. Yeah, we forgot to plug in the computer, so we don't want it to die while we are talking. Boom. There we go. We got juice now.
Okay.
Here we go.
And we're back.
All right. We're back. Yes. So, right in that sermon. So when I was asked to go to Andrews, invited to go to Andrews by Pastor Mike Polite. He was the chaplain of the school at that time. And when they invited me to come and preach, I was like, do they know who they're inviting? So I was like, all right, obviously they know who they're inviting. They know they have a committee. and the committee wanted me to come and speak for their Black History Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a little backstory too. This was the first time in a long time that they moved the Thursday chapel, I think, speaker back into Pioneer Memorial Church. And PMC is that's the church of Andrews University. So I think prior to that, they were doing the Black History programs in some other building. I'm not sure, but I believe that me coming back was when it came back to PMC, right? So it's crazy. So I preach a sermon like that in PMC, and like Andrews University is the institution or the bedrock of, you know,
Adventism.
Adventism education, right? Like the only seminary that we have is on their campus, which says a lot. So prior to me going to Andrews, I was wrestling with, man, let me water down the sermon a little bit. Let me, make it real comfortable for everybody, that nobody would be offended, or that, make it real smooth. And I was like, I was like, no. I was like, God doesn't want me to do that.
And just pausing right there,
Yeah.
I remember I think when he was about to, I think it was an evening chapel, right? Was it an evening?
No, it was a morning chapel. This was the chapel for the student body, faculty. Everyone is invited to come.
So I think I remember him calling me, and I think I remember you were just like trying to I could you were kind of trying to figure out how hard you should go with it, you know, like social justice Jamie, or should you kind of water down
kumbaya Jamie.
Right, to make peace and let's hold hands and that kind of response. But after we prayed, he was just like, he knew that what he had to do. And so just wanted to pause there.
Yeah, so I prayed for courage, and I was just like, hey, however it comes out, it comes out. Just know that I need to say this, because there are people in that congregation, there are Black and brown students who need to hear the truth. And then they also need to hear, the frustrations that we had, to know that, I was confident in knowing that it was Christians that pushed Trump through, and how offended we were. And I had to, the Lord just told me, man, this guy is reminiscent of Nebuchadnezzar. So I wrote that sermon, prepared it. And interestingly enough, let me say this. That wasn't a brand new sermon that I wrote for Andrews University. It was a sermon that I had preached before. But I was like, I want to take this sermon and preach it at Andrews for their chapel. So I preach it, and the story. It was quiet. Nothing was said to me or anything. I think people were shocked, that I had the nerve to come out there, talk about Ted Wilson, talk about white Jesus, the supremacy, and all of that stuff. And I think what happened at Andrews was that our I would say our people, and I think the white students there, were not accustomed to being confronted. After I left the campus, Myron James asked who was blackface. The school intentionally let the provost of the institution, who was a gentleman, I don't know his name, but he was a Black man, go out in the next chapel and apologize. I wish Garrison Hayes was watching this, because Garrison, Warren Gillen, dang, the names are going to feel, young lady, oh man, Loveday, Jeremiah Loveday's sister. Tanya. There's another girl. Oh, I see her face. She's gonna kill me. I can't remember the name. But there was these group of students, right? And I spoke to them after, and they were just like, thanking me for what was said. So that's before I left. Now I left. They sent out the provost or whomever he was to apologize for my sermon, to apologize for not vetting it. Oh, and I forgot this part. Let me say this part. Thursday was the first sermon. I had another sermon to preach. And in between Thursday and at that time, I think that the dean of students or someone brought Mike and I in the office, and they basically asked me this question. They were like, do you have any more sermons like that?
I'm sorry for laughing, but that joint is hilarious. Like,
like-
how do you dare? How are you gonna ask me if I have any more
Yes,
sermons?
Esther Battle was there too. Yes, they asked me, "Do you have any more sermons like that?" And I was like, "All my sermons are the same." I don't know what you mean by that. And then Mike was in the room too. And Mike was like, "Yo, Jamie, in front of the dean, you preach what you were asked to come here and preach. Do not change anything."
I know that's right.
So that's when I started noticing the tension that was on the campus. All right, now we get back. Provost apologized, and which sparked the it's time Andrews moment. Now there was also something else that was going on in the Adventist world. Corey Johnson, I think prior to me going to Andrews, had preached a sermon on Southern Adventist. The Southern is basically the new Andrews, where all the white people send their kids to. Mm-hmm. He preached a sermon there, and the comment section after he had preached that, they were like, "Yo, we hate this jungle worship, monkeys and all this other stuff." So I think that also added fuel to my fire to see what they had done to Corey Johnson. Mm-hmm. I was like, "Oh nah, I'm going to Andrews, and I'm not going out there to start no war. I'm just coming out there to tell the truth."
And this is in February, so that man, I can't call his name, y'all. I'm sorry. Jesus is still working on me.
46 minus 1.
Whatever. I just can't call his name. But when that was just a month after he was sworn into office, right, mm-hmm. as a president. So presidency. So we were still going through that. I can't believe that he is actually our president, like not our president, but their president. I just can't believe that this man of this kind of character is sitting in the highest seat of our country. And I think that entire vibe was just brewing. Like it was just like this unbelievable kind of feeling that we were just like, oh my gosh, this is really our reality.
Yeah. And social justice preaching back then was not as popular as it is today. And social justice preaching is something I've always done since back when I was at Ephesus in like 2007. I just become a little bit more vocal and more bold about it now. And I think it was a shocker to know that there was somebody who was bold enough, courageous enough to go to literally much call out the institution for what it was and what it was. And at that time, our feelings were hurt. Mm-hmm. Like my feelings were hurt that I saw people who professed to be Christians. And make no mistake, Andrews has a history of racism, mm-hmm. right? Andrews has a history of burning crosses on their lawn, separating black students from white students, and that mentality is still embedded. As much as they try to change it, it's still embedded within the fabric of the school, of the people that graduated from there who still want to continue to push racist ideologies, even how to stories to how they treat immigrant students who travel from afar in regards to what housing they put them in and to what they are able to access from what they aren't able to access. Like it's embedded, right? And I had all of those emotions and those feelings, and I'm just like, I'm gonna preach, and I'm gonna say what it feels like to be black in America, and what it feels like to be black in a Seventh-day Adventist institution, mm-hmm. and and that's like how the story started with the It's Time movement. It was that sermon served as the catalyst that because the students. And Mike Polite with helping them, find their voice and get navigate through that. And I don't even know too much about that because I was already gone from the campus. The It's Time movement was also a response to the fact that the institution was so quick to apologize
not to you.
Yeah, not. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, let me say the apology. They didn't tell me that they were going to apologize for my sermon. Nothing. They didn't even. Andrews has never even reached out to me since that has happened. Nobody from that institution has reached out to me since that has happened. I would say the only person who is an employee of that institution who has reached out to me is Michael Nixon. And Michael Nixon, let me tell you how things work. Mike Nixon was able to become the person of diversity, which that school was supposed to have way before I preached. I think the accreditation said you need a diversity trainer on this campus. But after I preached, they opened up that job, and Mike Nixon was able to fill that position for chief of diversity, or I don't know what his title is. But Mike's my boy, and I walked away like, look, I don't want no apology. I don't need no apology. Y'all don't got to reach out to me. I am I am a son of your institution. Y'all basically trained me. You didn't educate me. You trained me, and whatever. Just do what my God-given responsibility is. And I'm so happy that Mike has that position and that Mike is fulfilling that position, because Mike Nixon is no joke. Y'all need to check him out, follow him, because he's just that dude. But yeah, so that's pretty much, I mean, I'm not probably leaving out parts because I always leave out parts of stories, but it'll probably keep coming up to me as we talk. I saw Tiffany ask you a question.
Oh, she did? Okay,
Yeah.
before I get to that question, Fee Weeks says, from an ex-church goer, how do you battle being part of an establishment that supports this conflict from the top? Mercy,
Yeah, that's a
Fee.
great question, Fee. That's a great question. It's difficult. I'm always conflicted within in regards to what the institution uses God's name to do, and versus what they are supposed to do. So long as I'm in the institution, I'm not going to uh, water down what I believe God wants me to do. So basically, it's institution and then it's God. And so I follow what God says first and foremost. And if the institution does something that is outside of what God says or what God has told me to say, then I will always speak against the institution. So I refuse to be controlled or mandated or told what to do by the institution. Nah, you're not going to do that, because I don't want to be colonized by you.
Mercy.
The other thing too, that's
You need to say that again.
right. I'm not gonna let the institution colonize me. Nope. You can't do it. You will not. It's difficult because it pays me, right? It's where I get my check and how I feed my family. But I want to be able to sleep at night. And even if I'm wrong at it, I just want to be convicted and knowing that, hey, look, if I get let go, if I get fired, or if I'm blackballed and ostracized, it's not going to be because of stealing money. It's not going to be because of infidelity, or it's not going to be I don't want it to be because of any of those things. I want it to be because I stood up for what I believed in and what God told me to do. And so I don't have a problem with the Adventist message, because I believe that the Adventist message is about justice. I believe that it's about building, developing, and restoring relationships, about redeeming people. I do have inherent issues with the system. That's where I have issues with, not with the message, with the system and how the system co-opts the message to support the institution.
Mercy. Oh, Jesus. I needed a moment, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't see a question.
Tiffany way earlier asked you. She was like, "How does it feel to be married to me?"
Oh, for real? I missed that question, Tiffany. Sorry. Sometimes the comments roll through so quickly. I don't see it. Okay, here it is. I found it. All right. Have you guys ever shared what it's like being married to a pastor? Married to Pastor Jamie X, Carlene, or what's considered a radical pastor? What does it feel like?
Feels great, right?
It feels okay. So it feels. I can't just give one say. It feels amazing, or it feels. It feels whatever. I just think at certain points of Jamie's radical speak truth to power message ministry, it's been different in more ways than one or none. Jamie, I don't know. All right, let me get my thoughts together. So essentially, I think for me, I feel proud, right? I feel proud that he's doing what he's doing. At times, I'm just like before when when he started talking more about coming out and talking more about this truth to power, speaking truth to power, I'm gonna be honest, I was like scared, because I'm just like, okay, what if he gets fired, or what if people start, saying stuff about him, and he's more or less like it becomes an outsider, or like almost like a, what are those people called, like, you kind of, he's separated, right? Marginalized in a way, or he's blackballed because he's going against the system that he's working for, or he's speaking out about the systems in our society as well as the system here in our church. And so initially I was scared, but I learned so much from him, and I learned so much about the importance of speaking out, and I could not be any prouder of him. Of course, I'm on my knees mostly all the time, because I really pray and ask God's covering over his life, because I realize how serious it is, his message is. But in no way, shape, or form do I ever say, you know what, I don't think you should preach that, or, I think you should water it down a little bit more. If anything, I'm just like, yo, let's go. Even after he preached today, I came in the room and I just started praying for him. And it wasn't like a Father God, we come to you right now. It was like a, in the name of Jesus, that kind of a preaching down, praying down all strongholds, and just calling him into, asking God for him to continue to be, for Jamie to continue to be obedient to the word, to be obedient to this calling, because I believe without a shadow of a doubt that this is the message that God has called him to preach. And I know that sometimes it's tiring. Sometimes he's tired, right? When we think about social justice, it's to make you tired. But, I keep telling him, do not be tired in well-doing. Keep going, keep pushing. And I'm telling you, after this message that he preached today, I was like, listen, let's go. I was like, let's go, baby. Let's go. We got to fight this thing together. I'm in this with you. He knows I've been in this with him forever, but I'm even more called to it, because I realize how I too have been colonized by the system, and knowing that I feel like this liberation, it's like he's liberating me from my prison of thinking what I thought or think about the institution, the Adventist institution, as well as our society institution, and just being shaken up. And I can't see the world as I did before. And I'm just really encouraged. But I don't know if I answered that question, Tiffany, but I'm ultimately proud. I do have my moments, of course, where I'm scared and I'm just like, okay. But for the most part, I am definitely like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. And before you say something, so during the Andrews whole debacle, it was hard. It was hard. Here's why it was hard. It was hard because it was like a slap in the face to see the amount of people who were on those comments saying some awful things about him. That part, listen, if I could have reached in my phone into those people, I probably, if they were in my face, I probably would have punched them in their faces.
Yeah.
Because that's the part that's the hardest part, when you know that these people potentially would be sitting next to you on the same pew in the church, that they're the ones that are saying some awful things about your husband, about my husband, and I'm just like, what? That was hard.
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer the second part of Tiffany's question that I'm gonna talk about after.
I missed mad comments, but go ahead.
Right, after the whole debacle. So, it said like to be a radical pastor, and that's so interesting, right? Because this is what institutions do, and this is how they control the way you think. What makes me radical, right? Like, why is it speaking the truth radical, or speaking against the systems that create oppression or things like that? You're radical for doing that. So it almost is like what everybody else is supposed to be doing, that's normal. So wait, let me put it this way. So if you were speaking and you are okay with the system, you're okay with injustice, okay with um, not ordaining women, you're okay with all those things, you're normal. You're
Right.
not radical.
Mm-hmm.
When we should be viewing that as radical because it's outside of what the Bible mandates, right? But when somebody speaks against the institution, they become ostracized. They're radical. They're a troublemaker. You know, Jesus Christ was a troublemaker. Why? Because he did not belong to the institution. He did not think like the institution, like the scribes and the Pharisees wanted to think. I mean, this guy, Jesus, walked up to the very uh, institution of oppression and said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rebuild it. And so we don't talk about, oh, he's talking about his death and resurrection. No, Jesus saying, yo, destroy this system. It's oppressing people. Get rid of it. And then you read later on in the New Testament where the Bible says, you are the temple of God. You know, if you told somebody back then, let's go to church, they'll look at you and be like, what are you talking about? Let's go to church. We are the church, right? So, you know, this idea of who we call radical, who we call smart, who we call educated, those are all mandates that come from, or ideologies that come from whomever controls knowledge, or whoever determines what is good from what is bad. And then they make sure that everybody who is a part of them points out and said, that's a bad person.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the media will teach you to hate the people in the hoodies, but love the people in the suits, right? And so, like, you know, our definition of what makes that radical, because your savior was super radical.
Yeah.
Like, your savior had no dealings with any earthly institution because he knew all of them were corrupt. And they were corrupt because they ignored the least of these. That's where the root of their corruption came. They were exploiting the poor. They set up the temple and took money from the poor. They were leaving them out. And that's why Jesus said, destroy it, because you are antichrist. You do not represent me, right? So, you know, like, let's talk about what this thing called radical means, right? Or what does it mean to be educated? You know, where does knowledge come from, and who defines what that knowledge is?
Right.
So, you know, those are things that I grapple with. But the other part of the question was still talking about this radical part, right? The post-traumatic experience that I went through after the Me Too movement, or during the Me Too movement, man, that thing brought me tears. Because I went to Andrews just to speak truth from a black person's perspective of what was happening in America, and to also kind of foretell what we are going to face or what we're going to see. Because when you looked at Trump's campaign and you looked at who he was, you could have almost written what the next 4 years would have been. Now, I think that sermon was gentle in regards to what we saw over these last 4 years. But man, yo, let me tell you, people were on my Facebook. One dude called me the worst racist they've ever seen. Some other lady was sending me some emails saying, you missed a golden opportunity to bring us all together. Somebody else was telling me, you are not an Adventist. And then there was that website, Fulcrum 7. Let me tell you something. Fulcrum 7, I got no parts of that website. That's a white supremacist regime right there. Fulcrum 7 was going in on some old, you know, look at what they're bringing down the church. If they would just go to their school, then we wouldn't have these problems. And, you know, just real racist comments coming from Seventh-day
Adventists.
That's right. From the institution, right? Just real racist comments. And it hurt because I've invested a lot of money in this institution. Dag nabbit, I got a Sally Mae bill because I went to this institution to work for this institution. And the moment I speak up and show my blackness,
wow,
you know, it's a problem.
Right. They were quick to take your money.
Yeah.
Right. But the moment you start speaking about the system or their system,
Right.
is the very moment that they're just like, nah, we are divorcing ourselves from you. You know
Yeah.
what? How about you divorce my Sally Mae?
Yeah, take my Sally Mae. I'll shut up real quick. But here's the thing though, it's like when they apologized for my sermon at Andrews, this is what they were saying. We're sorry that a black man came out of his place and spoke to you that way. And in order to protect our institution, because we still need your funding and your donations, we will not be the kind of institution that allows people to express themselves freely. But we will fix this and we will make sure that you stay happy. That was the apology. That's basically it. We are sorry that somebody black came here and told y'all about your savior, Donald Trump, and talked about white Jesus. We are so sorry. We are so sorry we did that to you. We don't want to make sure we lose your foundation and your money. And and I think the school for, after the Me Too, that the president came out and did that apology, and and they're trying to make things right. I don't know what they're doing now. I pray that they're still celebrating diversity and letting students speak and express themselves how the way they know how to. You got to talk to Mike Nixon about that. But yeah, but what do we determine is who's radical from who isn't? Like, have we been so desensitized to look at what shouldn't be normal as normal?
Like,
Like a pastor not speaking about a black pastor with a black church who's not talking about issues concerning black people in America, or a brown pastor with a congregation whose families are faced, the DACA situation, who are faced with being deported, or who are racially profiled, and their sermons and their actions don't speak to that. That shouldn't be normal. I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's. I just can't see how we can just sit down, you know, in the most powerful day of the week. Like, you tell me when. There's no way you can get educated, uneducated black people to sit down in one room for over 2 hours, hundreds of them, and we never talk about how are we going to advance our community or make it better. We just go in there, sing songs, listen to sermon, eat food, and then drive and go back home. Like, that should be awkward, especially in 2020 and 2021. Like, that should be really weird, but it's not. It's normal. It's what it's supposed to be. So one person, and then like I got a whole lot of flack from black people now. Don't think it was only
that's
white
what
folks.
I think Myron, he asked, did you get
Oh.
any, I guess, any negative
Oh yeah, so,
responses from
some
black
people were like, the politics don't belong on the pulpit. When I come to church or when I listen to preaching, I don't want to hear what's on CNN and in the sermons. Why so much social justice? Why you always got to talk about justice? You hear them kind of silly statements. So yeah, so black people, don't get it twisted. Some black people are very apathetic towards social justice, towards the advancement of humanity, as much as there are some white people who are very pro social justice, um, and advancing other communities and seeking ways to spread their privilege so that others may have it as well. So yeah, yeah, black folk, we interesting. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, we definitely are. We definitely are, and it's unfortunate, honestly, when you when we have when some of us have climbed the ladder, right? When some of us has climbed this ladder, and we start to look down on those people that God has called us to help. Even as Christians, right? We become so resistant to the thought or the idea of, I'm not living for myself. That church shouldn't just be about these preliminaries. It should be a lot more than just sitting in a building and then leaving, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I think that we've become so complacent with it being that way, even though we can drive in to our church, and as we're driving in, we see the dilapidated houses, we see
check
cashing places, we see the liquor stores, we see all these things, we see our people suffering, and yet still we're so concerned about driving to this building that we no longer see those people. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like our privilege has now dictated.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I don't know.
Yeah, no, and you're onto the right thing. So it's like when you get a place of privilege, you want to protect it and you want to keep it. So you don't want to hear things that confront that. And I'm not like, don't get it twisted where I'm saying like, you know, you shouldn't move to better zip codes, or you
Right.
shouldn't drive fancy cars or whatever. Have every right to do that. I just believe that it's not okay to forget where we've come from, and that we should always seek ways so that other people can drive fancy cars and, and go to the best schools and sit at the table as well. And I think that's what we as privileged need to work towards, because I know, so the one thing that I always say, I think to be a pastor is a privilege. And I think I count it as a privilege to be able to stand up in front of hundreds of people at a given time. I have an opportunity to speak on behalf of those people who can't stand behind pulpits and to say things that ordinarily we wouldn't listen to. So I take that responsibility greatly, and that's why there'll always be in my sermon something that speaks to that. Also, I know that I'm studying, as I look at last day events, Matthew 24 is a chapter that we talk about all the time, when Jesus says, the disciples ask, how will we know when the last days are upon us? And Jesus is like, you'll hear wars and rumors of wars, and nations rise against nations, and famines and earthquakes in diverse places. We stop right there, right? But Jesus doesn't stop there. He goes down, he says, these are the beginning of sorrows. And then he goes furthermore, and he says this. He says, naked and you didn't clothe me. Hungry, you didn't feed me. I was sick and you didn't visit me. And he goes on this long, this diatribe in a sense, or this monologue, or however you want to call it, this speech. And then he says, then they say, when did we see you and we did these things? He said, as much as you have done this unto the least of these, you've also done it unto me. That message is not a part of our eschatology.
No.
That message is not a part of our last day events.
No.
And what's crazy to me is this, is that everybody knows, whoever is a speaker, whoever is a preacher, or no matter what, even if you are a debater or you argue, your thing is you always save your most important point as the last point. That's whatever you say last is what you want people to remember.
Yeah.
And these were like Jesus's last final words. Few words. He had some ones after that before he died. And at the end of that, he says this. He says, depart from me, I know thee not. So if I'm correct in reading that chapter, the litmus test for entrance into the kingdom,
mercy,
is what we did for the least of these.
Wow. Not the Sabbath day law. No. Not the Sabbath, what is it called? The 2800 day prophecy. Not the, what is it? Tribulation.
Right.
Or
all he says,
I'm trying to think of all the prophecies that we talk, the sun turning.
Yeah, he says all these things, you're going to see that. He says those are things that are going to happen. But he says, but you can't stop the famines and the wars and all that stuff. That stuff is going to happen. It's going to be here. But what Jesus is giving us a responsibility, he is saying, you saw me and you did not do these things.
Wow.
I'm putting it on you.
Wow.
And that's why we keep the Sabbath, because the Sabbath is about building relationship. We've left out a part of the Sabbath that talks about the Jubilee, that talks about the freeing of slaves, that talks about the earth resting, that talks about the forgiveness of debt. all of those things. But yet still, when a church wants to build a new building, they have to borrow money from the union that the union charges them interest on. And it's called usury. Right? So,
Oh my gosh. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because, wow.
and so like we've become such an elitist privileged denomination that only concerns about indoctrinating people and getting them in a pool, but we have not become a people religion or a people caring institution that finds ways to invest back into their communities. We mirror capitalism, where the bottom, the church, continues to feed the top, and none of the money comes back down. That's why your church can't build. That's why you can't do anything. Because capitalism, and I'm saying American capitalism, was started around the same time this church was being instituted. And the fact that this church has not come to the place to say what worked in the 1800s is not working in 2020 is a farce and a lie. And the only reason why it's not doing that, because it has to cut layers, which means cutting jobs. And there are people that are sitting on jobs getting salaries that they do not need to get paid to do. But I got poor people in Cedar Crest community who are taking 10% of their income and they're giving it to this institution, and this institution has not protected them.
Mercy.
I got women. I got women who are going to the seminary, taking out loans in the name of being a pastor to work for this institution. And they will extract your dollars. They will extract your intelligence, but they will not hire you. They will only hire one per conference. Wow. One per conference. And to the one female president that we have within our church, they ignore her and treat her like dirt. Sandy Robertson, or whatever, I don't know what her last name is, in California. They've basically said this to women within our church. They've basically said, you can come in, but you will never graduate to be where we are. We will hold the power. Therefore, if we are not ordaining you, you are not going to become a president. You are not going to hold official offices. You are going to stay down there, meet every goal that every male pastor has to meet, and then we will, and we'll still give you the same salary, but we won't give you the same title. But you're not going to climb in the system. You're not going to climb in a system that professes to say, we believe that the Spirit is poured out on all flesh.
Mercy.
I go on for days. And I'm not afraid to. I go on for days and days to talk about the things that I've seen and the oppression that is, that's no different from any other Protestant church. And this is what crazy, what kills me is this, is regional conferences do that to women?
Right.
I mean, come on, man. Y'all been discriminated against. And then you're going to go discriminate against women? Black women? But you okay with taking their tithe? Come on, bro.
So this is Justice Jamie that you guys are seeing on full display. This is what I get to do. This is my face every time. I just sit back and just smile.
Yo, if every woman decided not to pay tithe, this thing would collapse. It'll fall apart.
Because it's our dollars, our hardworking dollars.
And then you're making them go into debt by the government. Taking out loans, you training them up in Andrews University, all in the name of being a pastor. Mercy. And then before that, let me tell you, there are so many women that are Bible workers today because men told them they could not preach.
Mercy.
Who did not even go to the seminary.
Mercy. Wow.
And that stuff breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It really breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying not to like get emotional on here, but that stuff breaks my heart to see us do that to other human beings.
Yeah.
Yo, you ostracize LGBTQ people. They ain't got nothing to do with what's happening in this world. They're not the reason why the moral fabric of this world is falling apart. Yeah. It is white supremacy.
Yeah.
You won't call that out, but you got seminars and all these things going on. How do we respond to the gays and the lesbians and all this? They're not sexual deviants.
Mercy.
A gay person ain't worse than the elder who run around hopping in everybody's bed right now, and then we still put them in positions.
I'm done. I'm done. Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yeah, I'm radical.
Oh
I'm
my
radical, and
gosh.
I have to very at times, watch my tongue because it'll come back. I mean, and I'm sure it's gonna come back this week. I'm gonna get a phone call or probably some email or something, whatever, you know. But it is what it is.
It is
And the
what it
thing is,
is.
this is that there's no. I don't think there's any holes in it. And if there are holes in what I'm saying, then let's talk about it.
Right.
But we should not be afraid. This
To
is
speak.
to speak about it, right? We shouldn't be afraid of this kind of dialogue. We shouldn't be afraid of ignoring this kind of dialogue. We should be okay with being able to sit down and say, let's reason together.
Right.
You know? And I think that's a scary place. When
Opposed to what usually happens with people like you, radical thinkers,
yeah,
they're blackballed, or there goes the troublemaker, or it's never a conversation to say, yo, what you're saying, you know what, I agree with parts of it, and there's some parts I'm a little bit I'm struggling with, or I don't agree with it, but to completely try to shut it down and shut it up, like,
right. It doesn't make any sense. Jesus said, God says, let us reason together. That's why we have brains to talk about these things. How do we become a better society? How do we become a better church, not a better institution? That's what we need to be discussing. And where does that begin? How do we view people? How do we view, it's crazy to me that if we say we love people so much, then why isn't it one of our fundamental beliefs? Like, why isn't there a fundamental belief about justice? Why isn't there a fundamental belief about the beauty of God in all human beings? Regardless of whether they are Muslim, whether they are Jew, whether they're Buddhist, or whomever they serve as a God, there is still beauty within them because they are created by God, right? Like, where's that fundamental belief? Where is that? That should be a core message of who we are as Seventh-day Adventists.
Do you remember this week you were talking about, sorry, the comments are going in, I wish I could just like stop and just look at the different comments, but this is what I wanted to. So this week, do you remember us talking about like Muslims? You talk about people that were raised in different cultures, right? And what do we say to those people that have been brought up in that culture? Because I know Adventism, we've been taught that when the word is spread to all nations, that's when Christ will come back. And I'm I've been taught that the word is the Sabbath. It's calling people into what the Bible believes about the Sabbath, about those fundamental beliefs, right?
Yeah.
So do you believe that is so? That all people will have the opportunity to hear the gospel and choose for themselves? Or do you believe that what the church has always taught, that I'm sorry, or do you believe that those people who haven't heard it, do you believe that everyone will hear it before Jesus comes back?
Well, I think this, right? First, we know there are sheep in many folds, right? But I also think, go back to your question, is what version of the Sabbath are we bringing people to? What version of the Sabbath are we introducing to people?
Wow.
Is it the Adventist version of stay in your house on Friday night and on Saturday and go to church? Or is it the version of the Sabbath that was given that Jesus showed us? The one that picked corn on the Sabbath day, the one that healed people on the Sabbath day, the message of the Sabbath that says, I gave you the Sabbath because you were once slaves in Egypt. Therefore, go free other people as well. And I think that if we preach the Sabbath from that perspective, not from a perspective of what we can't do, but what God has entitled us and given us permission to do on the Sabbath day, we would invite much more people into the message of how important the Sabbath is and what it means. Because you talk about the Sabbath, when you look at it within scriptures, it's always given within the context of oppression, right? Like in Ezekiel, they are in exile, they're oppressed. In Exodus, they were oppressed by Babylonian rulership. Anytime in Isaiah, they are in exile, and God is saying, I'm going to give you a new Sabbath. The Sabbath is rest from oppression. It is rest from labor. It is rest to renew and to rethink themselves. And so God gives us the Sabbath as the seventh day as a day not for you to exclude yourself from society, but a day to include yourself in the places where people are oppressed.
Wow.
Destroy this temple. Because all we've been doing is sitting in a building, and it'd be different if we were sitting in the building strategizing about how we are going to show people the Sabbath. But no, we're talking about what we're going to eat. We're talking about the color of the carpet. We're talking about gay people as if being gay is like contagious, right? Like, oh my gosh, a gay person here. I might catch gayness. You know, like what? I don't understand. We've gotten so insular that our conversations are lost. They're lost. They're lost because it's like, oh man, I mean, it's like schools, these boxes, right? Teach these kids to be one way so that they could work within the capitalistic society that we have in America. Teach these people in the church to think one way so that they could continue to support and uphold the system. And I'm telling you now, I'm saying this with that I want to see, like, for me, this is my vision, right? This is my dream. My dream is that at my church, that every quarter I'd have a different congregation. What do I mean by that? That for the first 3 months of the quarter, I am just investing in them on how to go into the community and how to change it. Give me another group of people. 3 quarters, investing in them on how to take God's message into the community. Another congregation. Not the same, recycling the same people over and over and over, but pushing them out, as the Great Commission says, go ye therefore. It's not come in here, therefore, it is go.
Wow. Wow.
It makes sense. Maybe that's why churches aren't growing. That's why we're moving. That's why we keep inviting the same people.
Wow. But where's the lie? Where is the lie? Horeen, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Horeen Henry said, JB, they're going to say amazing facts, people.
Nah, man, I'm kicking amazing facts. Tell them, I'll sit down and teach them.
Oh my gosh. But yes, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. The lady that is on the panel with you, is she a Adventist?
This is my wife.
I'm his wife.
Yeah, we in this together.
I'm sorry. Did you not think that we were? I guess maybe she thought that I was just a random person with you. But I'm definitely a Adventist. Born and raised, don't know anything other than this. But
yeah, that's all we know. And somebody said that we are incensed with our religion. That's all. That's all it is.
Okay, that's actually a compliment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, see, and that's like the institution, right? How you should
How
look.
How are you supposed to look? I'm like,
you're supposed to dress. You're supposed to look. You don't look like this.
You know,
you're supposed to look a certain way.
But I remember growing up. Real quick story. I remember growing up. I was probably, this is when I was, I think I was a bit on the extreme. I was a little fanatical, not like extreme fanatical, but I was just like, felt as though that if I do this, then this is going to works by, you guys know I'm always looking for words. What is it? Works by faith. Works by faith, right? So if I became a vegetarian, then guess what? I will be even more closer to God. If I dress a certain way, that I would be definitely, it'll get me closer into my, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words. I would have a greater chance of getting into heaven if I did these things, right? And I remember like being so extreme. I said the greatest compliment that anyone could give me is asking or seeing that I'm a Christian or I'm Adventist, right? Because Adventists at that time, back in the day, we had a look, right? We would have long skirts. You didn't see any jewelry. Like you won't see anything, right? And so I remember it being a great honor to be called or for someone to say, "Hey, you look Adventist." Now, as I said to Carlene, I appreciate you, but what Adventism looks like, I'm not that.
Yeah.
I believe for me, it's more on what's in my heart than it is what's on my face. And if you're distracted, and I'm not speaking to you specifically, Kathleen, I'm speaking in general. If you're distracted by this, then you need to go look at your Bible.
But I also say this, right? Like, Kathleen, I don't know you, but the profile picture that you have showed them look advanced because we don't look like so I think your name,
right?
And then maybe you could tell us what an advanced like. But nevertheless,
right. Yeah, we don't want to go back and forth in what my Adventist self looks like.
Yeah, those
with the lips.
Those conversations are like so 1985.
Right.
It's 2:20. But
Anyway.
but what I want to say is
I'm
that
hot. She made me
yeah,
hot.
yeah,
Okay.
it's all right. Well, what I want to say is this: is that the point that you made up is um, serving Jesus, right? Oh no, being vegetarian. Like if you think being a vegetarian makes you closer to God or gives you salvation, that is the most elitist,
Right.
pompous,
Yeah.
disgusting way of thinking,
Right.
when it comes to salvation. Because I'll say it like this: you being a vegetarian, eating expensive vegetarian meals,
Right.
buying fresh produce, while you are doing this, and then you have poor people who don't have access to what you have access to.
Right.
We are most like Jesus when we are giving people access to the things that they never had before. We are most like Jesus when we are serving other people. Now, how we serve people may not translate the same way. Everybody's not going to be able to preach the way that I preach. Everybody's not going to be able to go and join a nonprofit organization. But
Right.
there, we are a body and we work in different ways. And so, however which way you can contribute, but just by being a vegetarian, if you think God's going to let you into the kingdom because you became a vegetarian,
Right.
man, you need to go reread your Bible, because there's nothing in the Bible that says vegetarianism is synonymous
Right.
with salvation.
Exactly.
And like I pointed out in my sermon, the three Hebrew boys were not vegetarians. Stop preaching that. They stopped eating meat for a season.
Right.
And you can read that in Daniel. The reason why they did not eat the meat was because it was offered up to pagan gods. And they said, we will not eat that meat that's been offered up to that.
Oh no, they said the audio is cutting up. Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm sorry that we're cutting up. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure. Maybe it's the, I don't know, the overload of people. I don't
Yeah.
know what that is.
Yeah, hopefully
I
it'll
think
stop.
our internet is good too. I don't know. But
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, as you were
Yeah,
saying.
and I think long story short, we also you spend more time in the community. Every time you spend time in the community, you kill them. Religious people.
Right.
Religious people who say things like, you look like your ancestors.
Right.
Religious people are the ones who say you can't come in here and just like. I've got more problems with religious people than with people in the world.
In the world, real talk.
There's people in the
Because
world.
they're the ones, the religious people, we're the ones that are, I'm not saying, sometimes I feel like I can be religious too and be judgmental. But as I remember a few weeks back, I remember talking to you guys and saying that my judgment, I don't judge as much because I know where I've been, what I've done. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not judging. I don't have a right to judge anyone. But when you think about religious people, they're called out to outside inside, this is what they cannot see. So
I'm gonna try to fix the audio. So go ahead, keep talking.
okay, so you are, so it's a fine line, you know what I mean? Like where people are always like pointing the finger or trying to point the finger at you, right? When they should be looking at themselves. You remember the Bible did talk about that gnat that is in your eye, or that a gnat that, or whatever it is that is in your neighbor's eye that you're trying to get out. Look at the one in your eye, right? And I often think that careful when you judging people because you never know the situation you might be in, right? And then you end up being judged by by others. And so just tread lightly, tread lightly, y'all, when it comes to judging people.
Y'all tell us how the mic is. Is it better?
Is that better?
Hit us with a thumbs up. I'm working on the microphone.
Is that better, guys? Okay, Crystal said it's better.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not sure what do you think was happening? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah, oh, the mic is not okay. A lot better. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. Let us know because we can't. Now I feel like we're choppy.
I know, right? No, we're okay. We're okay. But yeah, so I don't know what y'all missed, but these episodes are recorded, so we can always download it and upload it back up on the internet. We gotta start the Yeah, I don't know what happened to the sound.
But the lighting is fine. It's intermittent poor quality of sound. Okay.
Sorry.
But you guys say it's much better now. But you were talking about the religious people.
Yeah, I was saying that we have more problems with religious people than with people who are not religious, right? Yeah, it's like people. I have we face more resistance with people in the church than you would with people outside the church. So it makes you
crying shame.
Yeah, it's crying shame. So it'll make you say like, "Yo, do I need to keep?" And that's why Jesus was like, "I'm not going to keep trying to convince you scribes and Pharisees. I'm gonna go out in the community with these publicans and sinners because they receive me.
Mm-hmm.
They receive my message. They're not going to argue with me about my methods, about reaching them."
Mm-hmm.
they're going to receive it. It's always within the institution, the ones that have been institutionalized,
Yes.
that will always try to find an issue with the way certain things are done.
Yes. Trust me, Tiffany. You know, I'm like this. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too loud, but I'm like,
Yeah,
but I'm going to ignore it because the Lord wants me to ignore it.
It's a troll.
And it's a troll. It's definitely someone that, I mean, honestly, I wish we could. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, we're not streaming on the. We're streaming to Facebook.
Gotcha. But yeah, so it's definitely. Let's just ignore it, right? Because that's something that we don't need that distractor. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah is the homie right there. She's like, report her, so that she can be, gone.
Right.
But I think, you know what? Honestly, y'all, real talk. I think it goes with what exactly we were just saying. I think it's perfect. We could not have orchestrated it any better, right? That, interestingly enough, here we are talking about the institution, and someone on here who is institutionalized, right, is doing exactly what we know the church has been doing for years. So actually, it's actually not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because it's just showing the reality of what is, and how in the face of that, we have to ignore the noise. That's noise, right? That's the music that we're not bowing down to anymore. We're just like, yo, that's noise. We don't want to hear that. We're more about purposeful living and not necessarily caring about this, and more concerned about who's on the street corner or who's in the congregation that's suffering, who's that married woman or that single parent or that teenager or that child that's struggling. That is who we are to be working with or putting our energy in, not this.
Yeah, our purpose is to inspire others.
That's right.
As believers, and we welcome all thoughts, right? Like, that person is entitled to think how they want to think. I would just say to that person that it's not fair to condemn others for the way they think or for how they want to live out um, the the mandates that they feel that God is calling them to do. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, look, us going back and forth with you is not going to change mass incarceration.
That's right.
It is not going to
add no amount of life.
Right. It's not going to change the amount of hungry children that go to sleep at night.
That's right.
Wise man told me you don't argue with a fool because people from afar can't tell who is who.
Mercy.
That's Jay-Z, right?
Okay, so Jay-Z rapping.
Yeah, Jay-Z dope. But yeah, I think that's what's most important. And I think for all the people that are watching us today, as we talk about as a married couple, we want to live out, that calling for us to really be the hands and feet of Jesus, mm-hmm. and to do what Jesus did. Mm-hmm. That was not to indoctrinate people, but to inspire them, mm-hmm. to live life and have it more abundantly. And when they ask us, yo, what church do you belong to? Who do you believe in? I say, look, I belong to the church. It's called Seventh-day Adventist, but I belong to Jesus Christ, mm-hmm. right? He tells me what to do and how to do it. If you want to come where I worship, then by all means, come and hang out with me where I worship. But from now on, my sanctuary is going to be the zip code. Mercy. My sanctuary is going to be the community. The building by which I preach at from week to week, City Temple, a wonderful building, is going to be the place where I try my best to inspire them to think outside of the box, mm-hmm. and to understand that our calling is to inspire people that are in our vicinity. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. To go, not to stay. Mm-hmm. And if we build for them. We mm-hmm. don't build for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We don't need bigger churches. We don't need more fancy, elaborate pews and screens, because those things don't keep people. Mm-hmm. What keeps people are relationships. What keeps people is putting food in their stomach. Mm-hmm. What keeps people is being able to touch them where they are and to let them know that they belong, mm-hmm. and that they are important. Mm-hmm. That's what's important. All that other stuff, for the birds.
That's right, because as you always say, the show every week that you have to put on Sabbath after Sabbath, like real talk, it's not filling us.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like that food, and then that food. that the Chinese food is that joint is gonna fill you for like 2.2 seconds, and then you're gonna be mad hungry because that MSG is in there, right?
Right.
And then you have the food like the the Jamaicans or the West Indian people. You know that ground provision that joint sticks to your gut. It sticks to your stomach, and when you think about um, church, it only fills us for a little bit. We know we need, I know all of us are on here. The reason why we are like so, I don't know, enthralled with this, I think radical, this change is because we are all wanting something different. Yeah. Most of us, we are wanting change. We are wanting for our Christian experience to be a lot more different than church and the high that it gives us every Sabbath, and we do the same thing over and over. I'm not saying that that's not okay, but it just can't be it can't just be that. It has to be more.
And COVID has revealed to us that we don't need a building to be spiritual. We need buildings to maybe help build community with ourselves, with each other, but you don't need a building to be spiritual. And perhaps we have to reassess that, right? Like spirituality doesn't begin in the church and it doesn't end in the church. It can continue in the church, but COVID showed us like some of us have probably even become more spiritual with having to actually live out our faith and read the Bible for ourselves and to do the things that the I guess the sustenance that we would get from a church building, right? We have to find ways to feed ourselves, and we had free time to go to the soup kitchen, or we had free time to spend it with our families. We have free time to actually sit down and rest on a Sabbath day.
But not only that, free time to wrestle with what we knew all along, and now it's almost like the rubber has hit the road or met the road where it's like, yo, I feel empty. I feel there has to be more to life than this. Right. And I know that a lot of times we do say, let's go ahead and go to the soup kitchens and do whatever. But honestly, we have some people who do that, and then there's some people who's not doing anything because they're just like,
and then they're looking for something.
We're looking exactly to fill it.
I need something to fill it. So entertainment, is not going to fill that. Preaching is not going to fill that. It is when you actually be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. Yeah. The most memorable moments I think that I have had, and if there's anybody out there who's listening, and I think that we have had, it was not when we sat down in a church building or when I preached. The most memorable moments was when I actually volunteered to do something in a soup kitchen, when we drove down to the border, and we were with the migrants. When I took a trip to Honduras, when I was doing mission work, those are the things I remember. Yeah. Those are the things that changed my life forever. Sitting in a building really, it's just it is. It's good, but I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that because that's community, and we need that fellowship and community with each other. But we have to balance it. Yeah. Where we have to balance and say, okay, this week is building community and relationships in the building, but the next week is building community and relationships outside the building. Yeah. And then report back on what we did. So we need a good balance, a good mixture of how we exercise our faith. Yes. You can't that word exercise. Like we can't just keep, when you go to a gym, you're not only supposed to work on one machine every day. You change it up, right? Because you need to build different muscles. I think going to church from week to week only builds one muscle. Yeah. Ooh, that's a word. That's a word. Okay. That's a word. All right. It's only building one muscle. Yeah. And we're weak in other areas. And we need to build those other muscles. And we need to be intentional about doing that. But I gotta bounce. Yeah. I got another meeting I gotta be a part of. But look, man, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Man. Thank you for rocking with us, for hanging out with us, and for talking to us. And I know this episode was a little bit different, but we just want to debrief to talk about that. We didn't even get to talk about what happened this week. We didn't even talk about But maybe we'll do part 2 of the debrief next week. Possibly. But look, man, thank you for your comments. Please share, like, hit us up. If there's something you want us to talk about, we'll be glad to talk about it. And we love you. We
Yes.
appreciate you. You too, Kathleen. We love you too.
Yes, we do.
And we just want to make sure that we are uplifting Christ in all that we do.
Yes, and so someone asked when are we going to come back, and we try to do this every week.
Yeah, every week. So yeah, around 2:00. So
pray for us with time. It might be 2:00, it might be 1:00, but just know.
Yeah.
We'll be back, God willing. But we really appreciate you guys so very much. We pray that God will bless all of you, and seriously, as we've talked about this stuff, that it will really begin to unearth those that desire or desires to really do more than we've been doing.
And do better.
Do better. All right, peace. This is Carlene.
This is Jamie. Peace. Signing out.